Hello, bonjour everybody. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for watching my video, and special thanks for those who subscribe to my channel. This video is another video about Flames of War and how it works, and the subject I will be talking about is Scout and Spearhead. You can read on that subject in the rulebook page 93 on the special training or lesson from the front version 4. So Scout, when looking at the unit card, you can find, or will find mostly on all the unit card, if they have that special training on a unit. And for that, for example, you can take the unit card for the Puma, and it said Scout Troop. Underneath, you can see it's a tank unit, Scout training, Spearhead training, and Stormtrooper rules. So when we look in the back of the card, the Scout, the team can remain gun to ground while moving. And the second kind of vehicle we'll mostly see, or unit, is the observation vehicle for the artillery or observation troops, if it is an infantry, depending of the country. And the same apply. It said Panzertree up, observation post, tank unit independent, observer, stormtrooper, and have that special training Scout. And in the back of the car, you can see special rules. The Scout team can remain gun to ground while moving. So that's the basic of the Scout. When you look at the Puma, and we continue to look at the unit card for the Puma, you can see that most of his rating, like motivation, reluctant 5+, counter attack 6, remote 4, are really bad. And what the reason for that is Flames of War want you to use that Scout Troop really as what it is, a Scout Troop that is there to observe, show where the enemy is, block movement from the enemy, but not to engage in particular the enemy, or particularly the enemy. So basically, they observe and they move away. And if you want to engage the enemy, it's because you don't have choice. And during the war, it was the same principle for the Scout. They will move, find the enemy, get away from there, and report they found the enemy. We know now the basic of Scout. So let's look at Spearhead and how that go together. So when a Spearhead is placed on the table, they can move at tactical speed or dash speed, except if they arrive from the reserve or are placed outside their deployment using this rule. So basically, at the beginning of the game, you can place your Spearhead unit platoon and move it at the tactical rate or dash speed rate. But you cannot use any movement order at that time. So basically, you cannot do dash speed, then follow me, or start with a blitz and a dash or tactical movement. You can only do tactical movement or dash speed before the game begins. When you want to use Spearhead, there's some restriction to follow. First, you cannot be less than 16 inches or within 16 inches or 40 centimeters of any enemy team that is not concealed from. So you cannot move your team in the battlefield and be less than 16 inches on open field. So let's say here on the table, the German are deploying his forces and decide to deploy his Puma over here. But because it's less than 16 inches of the T-34-85, you are not allowed to deploy. You have to be at least concealed from the enemy to be allowed to deploy. Now because you have that edge row over here, or edge on the side of the road, it would bring you concealed from the T-34, so you can deploy over here your Spearhead. Let's say that the edge row is over here far from the road, you still be concealed from the T-34, so you are able to deploy. So that's the principle of 16 inches or 40 centimeters from any enemy. If it is open, you cannot, and if it is with an edge row or anything that cancel, like a fence, you are allowed to deploy your Spearhead. Now, how close can you be from your enemy team? Because you know if there's an open, you have to be at least 16 inches from your enemy. Now, if you want to be less than 16 inches from your enemy, you have to be to a maximum or minimum 8 inches in between the two if you are concealed. So if you are concealed, you can get as close as 8 inches or 20 centimeters from any enemy team. So in this example, we know that my vehicle are concealed in the forest, and they are a bit more, they are 9 inches from the enemy, so 22, 23 centimeters. So you are allowed. But let's say the Soviets are even closer. Then because you are less than 8 inches, you are not allowed to deploy your spearhead in the forest like this. You have to be a minimum of 8 inches in between. Now the last rule is the distance between your spearhead and the deployment area of your enemy. Here the gray part represents the deployment area of the enemy. So it's center of the map is here, 8 inches from the center of the map. And we play all the way to the middle of the map on the 6 foot long. That's pretty much standard deployment in many games. It's 8 inches from the middle of the map up to the center on the long end. Now it said in the rule book, you cannot deploy your spearhead 16 inches or 40 centimeters of the enemy deployment area or any objective outside your own deployment area. So if in this scenario, I'm right here with my spearhead, it would take me at 8 inches from the Soviet deployment. You cannot. So basically, if you deploy before the Soviet in this case, you have to allow the enemy, so the Soviet, be able to deploy everywhere or anywhere in their deployment area. So you have to be at least 16 inches of the deployment area. So that's the 3 rules. 16 inches of any enemy vehicle or unit in open field, and to a maximum of 8 inches or minimum of 8 inches as close as the enemy if you are concealed to the enemy. And the last rule is you cannot deploy spearhead 16 inches and less of any deployment area of your enemy, or for many battle mission, you may have a no man's land objective, and then the vehicle cannot be close to 16 inches. Has to be at least as far as 16 inches or 40 centimeters of that objective. So that's the 3 basic rules. Now, when you deploy your spearhead, like for the Puma, in this example, you have to be at least 16 inches from the enemy deployment area. My Puma on the dash speed, road dash, it can go up to 36 inches. So let's say I move from my deployment area and I drove on the road and I go up to here, it's about 33 inches. So I have to be at least 8 inches of any enemy if I'm concealed from them. And I have to be 16 inches from any enemy in the open and 16 inches from deployment area of this enemy. So when I look, I am more than 16 inches from the deployment area. I'm also concealed from any enemy, so I'm in a good position. Now from there, what can you do? So you deploy your Puma as a spearhead. So basically, if you are a spearhead, there's some troops that will follow suit. So let's bring some troops onto the table. So if you want to bring troops with the spearhead, there's one simple rule to follow, is you can be no further than 8 inches or 20 centimeters from your spearhead vehicle. If your spearhead vehicle, in this example, is on the road, I can go around and draw a circle of 8 inches all around the vehicle, and I can place any troops I feel like to bring with my spearhead. Now, there's one thing you cannot do. You cannot place any vehicle or any unit or platoon away from your spearhead to a maximum of 8 inches if you have to go through impossible terrain. So basically, if there's a river or a cliff inside that, in this example, we have the hill with a cliff. So basically, the vehicle cannot pass onto it. You cannot say with the rules 8 inches. I can bring my header on top of the hill here. I'm still 8 inches away from the Puma, so I'm good. Because a Puma cannot move in direct movement toward over the hill, then it's considered impossible terrain and you cannot place a vehicle. You must be on the same level or around the vehicle that the vehicle of the scout can move into. So my Tiger, the scout can roll into it, but they cannot roll on the cliff to get to the edge, so they cannot do that. If there's house or building in that deployment area and you have infantry, the infantry are allowed to go inside the building because they walk there and there's no impossible terrain. Even if the wall is considered impossible for the vehicle, the infantry is allowed to go inside the building. So that's the basic of the Spearhead. It can move at dash speed or tactical speed during the deployment. You have to be at least 16 inches of any enemy vehicle or 40 centimeters in the direct view. If you are concealed from the enemy, you can be up to 8 inches to the vehicle enemy. And the third, you cannot be less than 16 inches of the German, Soviet deployment area or your enemy deployment area with your scout vehicle. With the scout rule, what means gun to ground? It means that the enemy trying to hit you will have a penalty of +1, but it's not open automatically. If you are in open, like on the road right here, and the Soviet vehicle are over here less in the movement order, and they want to shoot at you, even though you haven't shoot or assault, so you have gun to ground, they don't suffer a penalty of +1 to hit you. So in this case, you just need a 4+ to hit the Puma. The same way to hit the Hetzer, 4+ is good enough. If you want the gun to ground to have an impact, you have to be concealed from the enemy. In this occasion, for example, we'll place an edge row along the road. So now your vehicle are concealed, gun to ground, because they haven't shoot or assault during their turn. So the Soviet vehicle, to hit your Puma, they will hit you on the 4. Because they are concealed, hit on the 5. And because they are gun to ground, will be hit on the 6. To make a comparison, the Hetzer here, even they haven't shoot or assault on their turn, they are not considered gun to ground because they don't have that they don't have that scout training. So the Soviet vehicle hit on the 4, hit on the 5 because they are concealed. So that's the reason for gun to ground and the validity of that. As long as you are in the wood or behind a hedgerow or fence that you consider concealed, you can add a +1 to hit. So in this case, because of the hedgerow, they are concealed, so +1 for the conceal of the hedgerow, and +1 for gun to ground. That completes my video for Scout and Spearhead. Thank you for watching. If you have any comment about what I just explained or just say, feel free to mark it below in the comment section. I'm here to learn, at the same time to share what I learned from it, from the rules book and lesson from the front. If you disagree with what I just said or the rules are inexact from me, please mark it in the comments below and mark where you get the information from so I can read about it. And I have absolutely no problem if you are right to say you are right and I'm wrong on my explanation. So thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.